Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to have you with us today. My colleague Blanka and I will be presenting on Facebook and Instagram ads, navigating the Apple iOS 14 update for success in 2021 and beyond. Myself, I'm Philippe Taza, CEO of Higher Education Marketing. We're a specialized digital marketing and technology company that only works within the education space. And my colleague, Blanka Kasalo, is our Director of Content Strategy here at HEM. Blanka, would you say a few words, please?
Yes, hi everyone. Really pleased to be with you today. Hopefully we're going to answer some of your questions regarding the recent changes to the Facebook measurement. So if you have any question during the session, please don't hesitate to send us a live Q&A. We'll try to answer as we go or at the end.
Thank you, Blanka. Yeah, so before we dive into this presentation, it's clear to say that Facebook advertising has had an important role in student recruitment efforts for several years now. And today we want to focus on the latest iOS update and how it's actually changed things for advertisers like you and us. We're going to go through Facebook's response and also highlight 3 ingredients of successful Facebook advertising initiatives. We provided some available resources to the attendants. There's a campaign planner. It's a tool that we use internally when we develop any type of Facebook advertising campaign, where you can define your audience, the interest, the targeting, the creative, any tagging for tracking purposes. So it's a useful resource for any advertiser that is interested in creating a campaign and that needs to share some of the details with other stakeholders within the organization. And we also extracted the paid advertising chapter from our latest 2021 ebook. So a couple of resources that you can have access to and download them through the interface. Now, before we dive into the actual content, we wanted to start with a poll, and we'd like to know how familiar you are with the latest iOS update and its impact on Facebook advertising. So we're going to launch the poll. There we go. And I believe the poll has been launched. Yes. Okay, so some of you are very familiar. Many of you are aware of it, but not sure what it means. This is all good. So we have a lot of people that are here to understand and learn about the update, which is really great. So we'll go ahead and hide the results and continue with the presentation. COVID has had an impact on how we, as educational institutions, dispense the training. Now, going from the classroom setting to the online focus. Now, what impact this has had on digital ads today is that a lot more players have entered the realm of Facebook advertising, which has already been and already was an environment where there was a fair amount of competition, but we've seen this increased competition have a direct impact on the cost per thousand and other cost metrics that relate to Facebook advertising. Blanka, what's your point of view on this context?
So yeah, of course, there's also many schools that are trying to get a higher volumes of leads. So Facebook and Instagram have shown great results for that. So there's also have been, for that reason, an increase in the spend for many of the schools in the past year or so. So there's definitely an increase in competition for any kind of schools that is advertising on Facebook currently.
And if you go back in time, we've been around. This is our 13th year. So when we started, we did a lot of Google Ads initiatives, and Facebook didn't exist. So as advertisers increased their ad spend on digital dollars, well, the avenue of Facebook advertising clearly was one channel that can be expanded into, and that's why all of these factors combined have had an impact on the competition. So this is really the nuts and bolts of this update. So for those of you that aren't familiar with it, essentially the latest Apple 14 update, or iOS 14 update, what it's provided the ability for a user that uses an Apple device to access, in this context, Facebook, but it also applies to other applications, to allow or not the ability for advertisers to track this particular users. So you can imagine the amount of data that was available before that is no longer available. So this created and creates a big void in the measurability of these efforts. We've got a short video we'd like to show you that just kind of sets the stage for what's happening to advertisers and individuals.
There you go.
Here's what you spent last month.
So there he is, the potential student or the client.
This will help with the itching.
Can I have a taste of your ice cream? Can I lick the crumbs from your table? Can you hear those people behind me? Go, mind your own business. Why don't you mind your own business?
So essentially, this consumer was followed by all of these advertisers that were tracking his behavior through all of these places, and the user decided to no longer be tracked. So then, poof, all of the advertisers were no longer able to look over his shoulder. So that's really the best kind of illustration we could find to really highlight this now new situation. Blanka, do you want to add something here? Yeah. Go ahead.
So and if you have been doing ads on Facebook or Instagram, you know that Facebook is relying a lot of the data that they collect from the users and the tracking that they're doing. So this change was quite heavy for Facebook, and those why they had to make changes in terms of their measuring model. And perhaps you also seen on the news all the fuss about Facebook and Apple, the little war.
So now there's a new ad rulebook. There are things that Facebook has deployed to provide the best possible measurement framework. Now, I want to highlight best possible because there are constraints and there are aspects of the measurability which are no longer as precise and as available as before. So, Blanka, if you want to walk through at a glance what these are, then we'll drill down into each of them individually, please.
Yeah, so of course, there's the verification of the domains or domains that you're using for your ads. There's the selection of 8 events per domain or pixel. And then there's the reduction in terms of the number of options available for the window tracking. And also there's impact about the audience targeting and reporting.
So here in the, I guess before we drill down in the actual steps, we should talk about the importance of having a business manager account.
Yes, of course. So if you don't already use that, I would suggest to you to create one. The best thing that you can do for your business and advertising on Facebook is to have all your assets within one business manager account. So it's pretty simple. So you have to add your pages, your pixels, your domains, your ad accounts, all under one place where you can, if you're working with agencies or if you need to share with your colleagues internally the access, it's pretty simple that way to make everyone give everyone access to what they need without sharing everything.
Yeah, and the reason why we're bringing this up is that in our experience working with many schools, it's often the case where, well, there's not one central business manager account that has access and controls all of these assets that Blanka listed. It's very common that a stakeholder in a faculty or a unit controls part of the access for some of these elements. So consolidating them is really a requirement to then enable this new ad rulebook, where it begins with adding your domain. Here you can add your domain. For example, here it's example.com. And if you have multiple of these domains or subdomains, and many business schools and universities do, they'll have abc.com, xyz.com, they'll have subdomain A, subdomain B, and all of these subdomains and domains need to be part of the one business manager account, and all of these subdomains and domains need to be verified. So
Yes.
now, yeah, go ahead, please,
So-
Blanka. Yeah.
Sorry. So yes, of course. Because as Phil was saying, you need to verify all the subdomains. Now with the Facebook changes that are implemented, if your ads is using a domain that is not verified, Facebook automatically stops it. This means that your campaign may not be running, or so it's really important to go through the steps that Phil explained to verify the domain, but also ensure that under your ads level. So for those of you who are familiar with Facebook, there's 3 levels: the campaign, the ad set, and the ads. So under the ads level, that your ads have selected the correct domain.
Here in this slideshow, we just wanted to illustrate that this college had or has 4 domains, and each of them were individually verified. And there's a procedure here which is a bit more webmaster driven. So that's why we're going to skip over how to do this. But essentially, there's a few methods where you and your webmasters can work to actually add some code and provide a signal to Facebook to actually verify these domains.
Yeah, and what's
Now-
important also, it's like when you do these steps, just make sure that you're doing them live and work with your webmasters to ensure that everything is set up well, and make sure that your campaigns are not affected when you're doing the changes.
Because as you said earlier, Blanka, if they're not verified, the ads won't run.
Exactly.
So that's not good. The next part of the rule book is related to events and conversion events. Now, what we wanted to illustrate here is that you should line up the events with the standard funnel from awareness to action at the end, which is to enroll in our context. And you can create different events and associate them to different milestones in the actual recruitment funnel. How many events should there be, Blanka?
So the suggestions of Facebook, it's 8 or less. What you need to make sure is that, first of all, you have your pixel installed, and then make sure that you select 8 events that you want to get data about, events that are valuable for your business or school. So you can optimize also your campaigns based on those. In terms of, as we were saying like earlier, Facebook with all of these changes is trying to simplify the process and all of the ecosystem in terms of options. So by reducing the number of events, they're trying to make it easier for us to get the data that is accurate.
Yeah, and depending on the environment that you're trying to measure, whether it's a lead gen type of effort or if you actually are collecting payments and actual e-commerce transactions and to registrations, you may want to understand and plan for these events and how you want to organize them around your pixel. And the reason why they suggest a maximum of 8 is to really counteract this data void and provide a reliability on the statistical modeling that they have to do to offset the data loss that's coming from a lot of the iOS users opting out from tracking. So that does provide a significant void of information. So to offset that, then they're trying to simplify the measurability framework. So here's an example of a landing page. How does this confer or relate to the events, Blanka?
So what we suggest most of our clients is to use landing pages that are specific to certain campaigns instead of linking directly to the website. That way we're able to track specific events based on if people are filling in the form. So in terms of the number of events that we have for clients, it's always under 8 events, which helps us in terms of reporting. And regarding the events, if you maybe I was thinking of just like giving you some details as we did for the verification of domain, how you can do it. So again, like it's under the business manager of your school. Another reason why you should have everything under one account. So it's pretty simple. So you only have to go in the menu and click on the events manager button, and that will lead you to the events manager page on your Facebook account, where you will be able to see the pixels that are associated to your ad account, as well as the events that are available on your website or different domains. So, and in terms of creating new events or choosing which one you want to keep or remove, you just need to go into the business in the settings of the events manager page, and then open the setup tool under event setup. Enter the URL of the website that you want to look at. Then you're gonna get like a list of different events that are available on your website that you can either confirm or dismiss, depending of if you want to keep on tracking these events or if you don't. There's also the option of you adding different ones. So that also is pretty simple. It's just like when you're under this tool, Facebook will guide you through every single step. So you just have to follow the instructions. Can you hear me? Okay, so perhaps we can launch the second pool. don't have his presentation. Okay, so guys, while we get the Phil back on, please answer the second poll questions. So the question is, do you set up and track pixel events in your Facebook advertising? I know that some of the schools are having some issues with setting up pixels, and but usually when you have a Facebook ad account, you're supposed to be having also pixel
Testing
installed.
1 2. Testing 1 2.
Yeah, hi Phil.
All right, look at that. I don't know what happened. Okay. Technology. Okay. So we've been able to go through the poll? Yeah. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. There was actually a question on the forum that we wanted to answer, Blanka. Question is, what are the biggest barriers to creating one business manager account from our experience? I thought it was relevant to go through. Yeah, please, if you can answer that now. Thank you.
So yes, so it depends really of the structure of your school. What we've noticed is when a school is smaller in terms of the programs they offer, they don't have different faculties. They tend to have a better process in creating one business manager account. When it gets to universities that have different faculties and continuing studies programs, they tend to have a bit of a mess in terms of their business manager, because many faculties will create Facebook pages, ad accounts that are not linked to the main one. So there's always people that are being a little bit of, I mean, even it's not criminal in terms of advertising, but they're not following the rules of the bigger institution.
Yeah, so I guess what you're saying is that there's some politics involved.
Yeah, a bit.
There are some politics, and there's also some technical constraints, but it's really becoming a requirement and the norm. And we've seen this for years in another context where you're actually using multiple accounts to track Google Analytics data. Well, it's very similar. You should only have one account. That's the best practice. So it brings us now to another very interesting topic, which is the attribution window changes. Now, before I pass the mic over to you, Blanka, just to give some context, what is attribution? Well, it's how you give credit to an advertising source or channel, to an event, an occurrence. In this case, we'd be talking about a conversion. And would the conversion be attributed or given credit to, in this particular context, Facebook, or it'd be given credit to Google or LinkedIn or organic search? So it's really about providing the credit to the actual source. And Facebook has provided and actually has changed these settings. So on the left, you have what was there available before. You can actually provide credit to Facebook for an ad being viewed up to almost a month or 28 days ago. So not even clicking, but they would allow credit to an ad being viewed through their feed possibly, whereas now they've limited this window. So Blanka, if you can provide some context and explanation, that'd be awesome.
So yes, the number of windows available are kind of giving us a better, a more robust overview of the consumer or the student's journey. Facebook had a few more options available in the past. We were able to go over to up to 28 days views. So whenever like someone would see an ad, they would have up to like 28 days to be tracked for that. Now the Facebook has reduced that again to simplify the measurement. Now, in terms of click, we have the 7-day click and the 1-day click. That is now more. The numbers for the 1-day click are more determined in terms of a statistical. How do you say it, Phil?
Statistical modeling.
Modeling. Thank you.
That's right. Like a model. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's my French brain going.
That's okay. A model.
Yeah. And so you have now the 1-day click, the 7-day click, and the 7-day click and 1-day view, or the 1-day click and 1-day view. So there's less options. We were also able to, in the past, to compare the different windows in your ad account.
Yes.
Now that option has been removed. So I don't know if Facebook will tend to put it back. We hope so, but that's not sure. So it's difficult. We're not able to see the differences between the different windows when we're selecting them.
Yeah, and this diagram is really just to explain again the attribution and how this window has an impact on the measurability. So the user sees the ad or clicks it, and then within a time frame, a day or a week, would actually convert. This conversion would have happened on a landing page or on the website, and then the attribution would go back to in this case Facebook. But the window of measurability has significantly been narrowed to actually provide more statistical meaning or relevance or reliability on this data modeling that we were referring to earlier. So there's some new strategies. Obviously, Facebook it's a technical environment, and we're just trying to curate some of the components that are relevant for the audience today. If you're running ads or you're having other stakeholders that are running their ads, this would be something that they would be aware of. But we wanted to really distill it and bring it to the forefront. And again, here, we want to provide some areas or of strategies of optimization that could be important within the new context. You want to provide some guidance here, Blanka, please?
So yes, in terms of, so as we speak, like there's many things that are impacted, the reporting, the targeting, as we were saying, that Facebook was relying a lot on the data collections for optimizing the ad accounts, the ads. I'm sorry. So there's that little point to think about, because we on our end are optimizing the ads and the campaigns on a daily regular basis, but there's also the optimization that Facebook is doing by collecting the different data. So by having less data, they're not able to optimize as well. So in terms of all of this, different elements that are being changed and impacted, we have to think and plan a little bit in advance whenever we create campaigns or ads.
So the first ingredient would be to target and to test, and that brings us to the really the ABCs of marketing, which is to establish your target audience and to define a persona. This is a very simple representation of a persona, but obviously, a lot of business schools have great personas, and they've been developing them for a long time. If you haven't yet, you should begin. And through data and experience and result, you can bolster this and improve it and add to it over time.
Yeah, so in terms of when we were saying that there may be multiple people working on your ad accounts, or you may have different businesses within your school, having the persona is a great point of start for anyone who's creating campaigns for the school. They're able to look at those personas and the information the school already has to use the different features available on Facebook. So the interest, the behavior, being the job titles that Facebook gives. So these elements, that's an important element.
Now, in the testing here, which aspect of testing are you highlighting with this particular slide? Did I lose you? No?
I'm here.
No, okay,
Thank you.
okay.
So in terms of testing, what's important in this, it's to, when you create different audiences, it's important to see the result for each. How many leads are getting for ad sets that are based on interest? How many you're getting for ad sets that are based on lookalike? So that's that element that's important for analytics in this.
Has there been changes to the percentage in terms of the lookalike audience? Has there been an impact in the settings that are available now to the users and to the advertisers?
So in terms of remarketing?
Yes, that's correct. The remarketing. Yes, I said lookalike, but you're right. Thank you for correcting me. Yes.
And do you guys hear me well? Because I feel like there's an echo. I'm going to just...
No, we don't hear you anymore. I'll keep going. So here we want to focus on the report engine of Facebook ads. And in this particular screenshot, you're seeing two different campaigns that are running and two different ad sets per campaign. And each ad set has a focus on a different audience. And you can actually look at different metrics by ad set, by audience, to identify the ones that are performing the most and the ones that are performing the least, to reallocate the resources in the right area. And this approach of drilling down in the data was always important before, but now with this latest update, it's very, very important. The second ingredient is obviously to have compelling creative. Now, in Facebook advertising, in the platform, you can create one creative and you can apply it to multiple placements. Well, that's not the ideal case. The ideal case is to really customize the format and the creative to each individual placement to provide the best possible outcome for that placement. And what is a placement? Well, it's a different media outlet. The one that's most common to all of us would be the Facebook news feed or the Instagram news feed. Those are two different placements, but there are many, many more that are available through the environment. So you should spend time to invest into the design, invest in the photography that you want to use or videography that you want to use to really convey the brand message and uniqueness of your organization. Now, this is not a new tip, but because of this impact that's becoming felt with this loss of data and of user tracking, going back to the basics and really investing resources to make your ads pop and meaningful and impactful is very, very important. And obviously, the format, some are vertically rectangle, some are square. You have stories to consider. So if you want to be available and visible through a lot of the environment, you have to spend the energy to customize the ads for different formats.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You want to add something to this?
Yeah, just first, we talk about, we give it the example of Miguel. They create different ads and
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, we'll just continue then until you can maybe fix it. And the third ingredient is looking at the placements that convert. So when you create an ad in a campaign, you can decide which placements you want to opt into to publish your ads to. Well, you should try to venture into new areas and test the waters, so to say, to see if you can gain some traction. And one thing that works for one school may not work for the other school. it's really, really specific to the audience and the personas you're trying to reach. So we have our third poll. Let's see here, poll. We're going to start it. So what is your comfort level now in social media advertising? We just want to see if some of the information we've shared is making you a bit more comfortable than you were at the beginning. Good. So 2/3 will give it a try, and a third still finding it unclear. Well, hopefully the last push and the last slides will help you go over this hump, and that you'll feel comfortable enough to give it a try. So let me go ahead and share the results, and then I'll move on to the last few slides. So the last few slides, we really want to reiterate that this update is now eliminating a lot of users that were being tracked. So therefore, you need to develop a routine, develop points of reference so that you can really measure the activity with the most amount of precision as possible. So we've been talking about placements. We also can be referring to different devices, whether it's a desktop or a mobile. Now, we should say that Facebook advertising is 90% plus driven through mobile devices. So the mobile play is significant when it comes to Facebook. And that's why this latest update is going to have a big impact and has had an impact on advertisers. So you should try these different placements, but you need to develop the routine to drill down in your campaigns, not just at the top level to see the overall metrics, but you can actually drill down in this campaign and understand which device, which placement are being served, where your ads are actually being served, and what results are coming from this. And so you see this campaign generated 82 website leads. The cost per lead was just under $6. But Facebook, the actual insights environment is in flux. We're seeing the evolution of it, and it's not as precise as it used to be. We're not able to actually see the results by device, by placement. It tells us, the number of impressions, the reach, the spend, but it doesn't tell us how many conversions or events occurred. So this is a problem that's current at the moment, and it also applies on the platforms and devices. So you can see whether it's an Instagram initiative or an iPhone or a tablet. So you're able to get this kind of information and see what type of volume and reach you can get on these different outlets, but we're still not able to understand or have visibility on the performance for these different devices. So what can we do? Well, first of all, next to the number 82 that you saw earlier, there was a number 2 that was as an italic. Here, we extracted the message from Facebook saying that these results may not include conversions from people who have opted out of tracking because of iOS 14. In some cases, statistical modeling may be used to account for some conversions. So what we did is we looked at the Google Analytics data. We went and found traffic data from that same campaign. And in Facebook, we saw 82 conversions or 82 website leads. And in Google Analytics, we saw 189. So right away, there's a big gap. I want to say that we don't find this gap to be constant between accounts and between schools that we work with. In some cases, it's very, very precise. In other cases, it's very widespread, like the example I'm showing you here. So the other thing you could do is you can use a secondary dimension, isolate the same campaign, but now add the device information. So you can see how many conversions are happening for each Apple devices or Huawei devices or Samsung. Whereas before, in the native Facebook advertising environment, we weren't getting this type of information. Now, for this information to be available in your Google Analytics account, there's a couple of things that have to happen. First of all, you have to have goals set up so that when a conversion happens, it's being tracked not only in Facebook, but also in Google Analytics. And number two, you have to use UTM parameters to share the campaign source and medium to Google Analytics from the Facebook ads environment, or for that matter, from LinkedIn or from email marketing initiatives. So you really need to use the UTM parameters. And if you do, then the void that you had in the Facebook insights, you can start stitching the story with facts from a complementary data source, which is in this case, Google Analytics. The third area is your CRM. If you have a CRM, you can use it to track the source of the campaigns, of the contacts that are generated from your advertising initiatives. So when the leads come into the CRM, the actual source, and in this case, the campaign, is associated to the contact so that you can really know how many conversions occurred from your campaign on Facebook. So you might see a smaller number on Facebook that you were seeing in Google Analytics and that you're also seeing in the CRM. And this was interesting to show that, we talked about attribution and credit earlier. Well, this report highlights the path of a user to actually convert. And we simplified it just to really isolate the Facebook advertising, so we eliminated some of the noise. But if you look at the first row, it's telling us that the user interacted with a Facebook ad and then came back directly and converted. And that combination of a Facebook ad and a direct, that happened 22 times, or 22 conversions came from that combination. The last one, we kept it. We didn't want to, we chose an 11th row because we found it very interesting. This user interacted with LinkedIn advertising, came back directly, then came back through Facebook advertising, through Google Organic, direct, again, Facebook advertising, and one more organic session and 3 direct sessions. All of those interactions to generate one conversion. So this gives some context to the actual behavior that's happening online, and how the attribution window that used to be 28 days views and clicks, now that are moved to 1 day and 7 day, how this is having an impact on this type of synergy, this type of collaboration between your sources to generate those conversions and provide the credit to the right channel. And lastly, if you have your CRM set up and you can track your contacts and your leads from the right source, or your applicants from the right source, you'll be able to see your enrollment data and really establish a true ROI of your initiatives. So one last final poll. Okay, let me do this. So are you using multiple data sources to track your Facebook ads? And this is a multiple, you can choose multiple answers, so that if you're using more than one, you can please tell us. We'll give you some time to answer this last poll, because really that's one of the best takeaways that you can use to really offset some of this new conundrum that we're faced with and this data void that we're experiencing. Okay, I'm gonna share the results with you. And Okay, let me just go ahead and do that. Okay, so a few takeaways. Obviously, we're here to answer any questions you have. We have a few minutes left before the hour, and we're happy to be of assistance. And we're sorry for some of the audio and issues we've had, but part of the working from home conundrum. So, marketplace is a lot more competitive. We've seen an increase in cost. The big factor, the big takeaway is the iOS update allows users to opt out of ads. So they're no longer being tracked. And you may have not seen this or may have not paid attention, but if you do see it from now on, you'll relate it to our conversation. So Facebook's response, they're suggesting a max of 8 events to track and to measure. The window only lasts up to 7 days. That's a big change. And use Facebook to target and to zero in on your ideal student. Stand out with your creative. Choose placements that convert. And the last one I would say is use other data sources to try to get the answers to your questions. So we have a few resources, as we mentioned at the beginning. Blanka and I will stay on for a few minutes to see if you've got questions for us. We understand that some of this might be technical, but this is the environment that we're working within. We'll take any easy or hard question that you might have. So one question is the change here to stay? Well, we don't know what's going on with Apple and what they're doing at their HQ, but we don't think that they would go all through this process to deploy this update to not have it permanent. Privacy and tracking, we're seeing that trend growing and growing. So yeah, we think it's here to stay. Blanka, do you want to add something?
Let me try to speak. Do you hear me?
No, yeah, perfectly.
Oh my God, thank you. So I mean, what I've seen also is that I believe like Facebook is gonna stick with what we have now. There's also if you're advertising on social, I saw that TikTok also is about to make some changes in terms of their events tracking. So I think slowly everyone is gonna have to align with what Apple wants. And in terms of Apple, like I mean, if you sound like they're advertising more and more this new feature, so I doubt that they will go back to.
Yes. So student recruitment is becoming very interesting, and we hope that the information we've shared has given you some ideas as to how you can either manage the initiative or do the advertising yourselves. We'll stick on for another minute. If there's anything you'd like for us to go back to or explain, maybe from a different angle, we're happy to do so. You're very welcome.
So there was a question. How about LinkedIn? I don't know, like Phil, if you replied or saw that while I was gone.
No, I didn't see that. No.
So in terms of LinkedIn, we have not seen any changes for them happening. So not sure if they're intent to do. They're usually a bit slower on the end. So in terms of LinkedIn now, it's still the same. There's no changes.
Well, if we had to take a bet that probably at some point they'll roll things out. We're seeing that Google Ads is rolling out some similar initiatives in terms of having advertisers identify themselves. So yes, it's becoming a lot more of a controlled environment, and that's creating challenges for advertisers and result-based marketing. Well, we want to thank you all for your time today. And again, Higher Education Marketing, we're here to assist you if you have any questions. Our team are available in case you want to have further conversations. The slides will be available to you, the resources we provided. And we thank you so much for you taking the time to listen to our presentation today. Thank you very much.